Welcome to a video about slave cemeteries. The stones within slave cemeteries may not contain inscriptions, names, or dates on the stones. When this occurs, it can be very difficult to interpret the mortuary landscape. In other words, how can you determine whether one large family used the graveyard or whether multiple families buried their dead over several generations? For this module, we will look at the distribution of stones within the slave cemetery at Sweet Briar College. In the 19th century, Sweet Briar was a farm with over 140 enslaved individuals working on an antebellum plantation. This photo shows some of the gravestones lying today within an overgrown field. It helps to understand the patterning of these graves if we turn to an aerial view. In this case, modern trees obscure the Google aerial, so we have to turn to a hand-drawn map. This map illustrates the 60 uninscribed stones and an additional dozen or so unmarked depressions indicated by the gray rectangles. The dotted line and wavy line on the right indicates the perimeter of the burials, and the green circles are the location of contemporary trees within the cemetery. At first glance, there does not appear to be any pattern to the graves, but if we start looking for clusters of stones, we see several patterns, indicated here by the circles. Some of the gravestones within these circles are paired head and foot stones, such as numbers 47 and 49 on the right-hand side. Here is an annotated photograph of stones number 49 and 47. As we would expect, the footstone is significantly smaller than the headstone. Because of the short distance between the two, this is probably the grave of a child. If we turn back to the map, we see that the paired head and foot stones, like numbers 31 and 32, or 33 and 34, are themselves grouped together with other stones and separate from the remaining clusters. Furthermore, there appears to be a north-south divide within the graveyard. This may indicate two different generations of burials, perhaps the western side with fewer preserved stones or the older burials. While it is impossible to prove these inferences, there is certainly more to the pattern of stones than meets the eye. Today, the graveyard is a small clearing in an otherwise forested hilltop, but originally the site's landscape was the opposite, a cluster of trees surrounding the graveyard in an otherwise denuded hilltop. This historic photo from the 1920s illustrates the original landscape for this cemetery.